This is the Morris Room of the Oxford Union Society. It's named in honour of William Morris, the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood artist, not William Morris, who became Lord Nuffield, the car manufacturer. There were two William Morrises associated with Oxford whose lifetimes overlapped in the late 19th century. Anyway, you can see this as a William Morris wallpaper. So the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was that artistic movement that emerged in the late 19th century. It's not just about the plastic arts, but it's also about poetry and painting, whatever, novels and so on. And here are some Oxford dons. Look at the 19th century, complete with the frock coat, the watch and chain, wristwatches they invented the American Civil War, wearing as mortarboard, and this chap. So into the early 20th century, a quarter of Oxford graduates became clergy, mostly ordained in the Church of England, occasionally the Catholic Church, and then in other denominations, other Protestant denominations. Look at the Oxford Union Debating Society, and there they are dressed up as though they're from a century earlier, but not looking stiff enough because, of course, in the late 19th century, you had to stay still for about 10 minutes. It'd be blurry. So they even had these wooden poles behind their heads and these things that hold their heads in places, because if they moved too much, it would be smudged. And these people, none of whom, so far as I know, has risen to great heights since then, in front of the debating chamber. And look at this map of Oxfordshire. I don't think it says the year, and there's Oxford in the middle, because and they have those hills to the east. There's Boars Hill, but to the southeast, from which you could have supposedly see the sea. Oxford itself is very flat, and it sits astride two rivers, the Isis and the Cherwell, the Isis being the name for the Thames as it passes through Oxford. And then over to the east, there's a big hill, there's Headington. Then it's sort of well outside Oxford, but these days it's very much part of Oxford. And the Cotswolds to the northeast, that range of hills towards Wiltshire and Gloucestershire. Anyway, what else about the Morris Room, or William Morris? So he went to Exeter College, Oxford, if memory serves. He's born the son of a wealthy banker in Waltham, Essex, these days part of London, but then outside of London. He came here, and so he's involved in the arts and crafts movement, making his own furniture, handmade furniture. I think it's still going. It was a reaction against the Industrial Revolution, and things being made by factory. They favoured authenticity and nature, sort of like a new romantic movement, but they disliked a mass production and the loss of individuality. It was a rather romantic view of the Middle Ages, what they had. Okay, in honour of the School of Theology. Okay, you can find in the library. So these examination pass papers, so they're not to take these ones out, but these are sold. You wouldn't bound books. Of course, books are very, very expensive in the 19th century. A simple book would be hundreds of pounds in modern terms, which is why well into the 20th century there were some families who owned no books whatsoever. And the American Journal of Philology. We tend not to talk about philology these days, but somewhere between literature and linguistics. And this chap with the soup strainer moustache, I don't know who he is, but the Heritage and Arts Committee or HAC used to meet here on the able chairmanship of John Whitehead for some time. Then going back to before his photographs, obviously got cameras in the 1840s, daguerreotype, as in photos they're first called because the Daguerre brothers from France invented them. Lewis Carroll of Alice in Wonderland fame, first person in Oxford to own a camera. Sorry how the light is reacting on these ones. And what kind of moustache do you call this one, or beard kind of? We shaved his chin and left his whiskers. Okay, and Lindsay or Sydney something or else. Stanley, I can't really make out the name there in this sketch. Right, so here they are, these very severe-looking, unsmiling Victorian figures. It looks a bit like William Morris himself, who had Kelmscott Manor, a stately home by the River Thames in Oxfordshire, and then Kelmscott House in Hammersmith, which still stands. He used to go by Thames between the two. Wrote The News from Nowhere, travelled to Iceland, was a poet as well. And an early days socialist. So tried to sort of go back to the Middle Ages, and when people were all craftsmen, overlooking the fact that people lived in semi-thraldom as serfs and so on. And you can tell by his dog collar, he is in the service of the church. And there are more clergy over here. Now, around about 2004, Alka used to meet here, the Oxford Union Society. Look, the Bishop of Oxford, he was president, TT, Trinity term. Okay, in 1844. So you can look at his ecclesiastical robes. So the Oxford University Conservative Association, ALCA, used to meet here, have port and policy on a Sunday